All right, today we're going to dive into the incredible story of Nick Vujicic and how he built this amazing framework for finding purpose, even when facing challenges that most of us can't even imagine. And we're going to do that by looking directly at his own words to understand what it truly means to live a life without limits.
So let's just start right at the beginning. Nick Vujicic was born without arms or legs. And look, this is way more than just a biographical detail. It's the profound central challenge that shapes his entire message and everything he shares with the world.
And right out of the gate, he hits us with this powerful paradox that's really at the heart of everything he talks about. How can a man with no limbs be God's hands and feet in the world? I mean, how does that even work? It's a question that just pulls you in, right?
So that brings us to this central idea, this paradox of who he is as a messenger. How could a man with such profound physical limitations honestly claim to have everything he could possibly need? Let's unpack how he explains it.
Well, his whole point is that his life, his story, it's not really about his abilities at all. He literally says, it's not about me, it's about Jesus. I didn't write my story, Jesus wrote my story. So he sees his life not as some tragedy, but as living proof of a divine purpose.
But you know, to really get where he's coming from today, we have to go back. We have to look at the incredible struggle he went through early in his life. Because this message of hope, it didn't come easy. It was forged in a pretty dark place.
You can only imagine the weight of all that, the constant bullying, his circumstances. It all pushed him to a breaking point when he was just a kid. By only 10 years old, he was so utterly convinced his life was a mistake that this deep hopelessness led him to try and take his own life.
Nick actually calls that nagging internal voice of despair a lie that he was listening to all the time as a kid. He describes it like a war going on inside his own head, caught between the hope his parents were trying to give him and all the negativity he felt from the world.
And check this out, this is how he actually visualizes that whole internal fight. He frames it as a battle for truth, a direct clash between two completely opposite stories. On one side, you have the lie whispering, "I am a mistake." And on the other, the truth he found in Scripture, which he says became his weapon against all that despair.
So what changed? What was the turning point for him? Well, he talks about it as a conscious choice, the moment he decided to run a totally different kind of race. He realized that the real source of his unhappiness was that he was chasing all the wrong things. So first, he lays out what he calls the wrong race. And think about it. This is the life where your happiness is all tied up in getting things. Getting the job, getting married, just getting more stuff. He even argues that if you're not happy single in Jesus, you won't be happy married either. Because those external things, they can't fix what's empty on the inside.
And then, on the flip side, you've got what he calls the right race. This one's not about what you can get, it's about what has eternal value. It's about focusing on others. For him, since you can't take any of your stuff with you when you go, the real prize isn't earthly success, it's about who you bring along with you on the journey.
So this whole new way of looking at things, it's all built on this foundation of faith. And a huge part of that is trusting in a plan that's, way bigger, and honestly, sometimes way more confusing than his own. For Nick, this was a huge deal. It meant letting go of what he wanted, of his expectations. He's really honest about moments where he was basically hanging up on God because the plan just didn't make any sense. But he says he finally found peace when he accepted that a higher plan was at work, even when he couldn't see it.
And this is also how he tackles that huge, universal question: why is there so much suffering? He addresses it head-on, concluding that while God isn't the one causing the pain, he believes God has the power to take something that was meant for evil and totally transform it into something good.
Okay, so all of this, it all builds up to this really powerful climax in his story. A complete rethink of what a miracle even is. It's this incredible shift from waiting around for a miracle to actually becoming one. And he asks this question point blank, to everyone listening. He's talking about those moments when you pray for something, for healing, for a change, for anything, and nothing happens. He even admits he still keeps a pair of shoes in his closet, just in case. But he asks, what do you do when the answer seems to be no?
And his answer, wow, it's just so profound. The idea here is that maybe your purpose isn't found in being healed or fixed, but in becoming a source of hope for other people because of your struggles, not in spite of them.
So in the end, his own life becomes the proof. It's the ultimate example of this whole idea. Like he says, I can't do anything with my broken pieces, but there's nothing that God cannot do. And so his life, full of joy and impact,
becomes the very miracle he once prayed he would receive.
So we want to leave you with this final thought, a question that really comes straight from his testimony. It pretty much sums up his entire message of finding purpose, and it challenges all of us to look at our own struggles not as dead ends, but maybe, just maybe, as the starting point for something incredible.
Now, the testimony we've been exploring today comes from the YouTube channel Be Thankful, and they have this message for you. If you were inspired, please like and subscribe to their channel, Be Thankful. Feel free to share this video as well. Thank you, and God bless.